Welcome back, everybody, to the Tim and Tony podcast. I am in charge of the cold open this week, and I will not be doing random gross animal sex facts. As it turns out, I will be giving Tony a good old-fashioned over-under. Tony.
Going back to our roots.
The over-under for how much Harrison Ford was paid to do what was then episode 1, what is now episode 4 of Star Wars. I'm going to set the over-under at $65,000.
It was under.
It was way under. It was $10,000.
Yeah.
It's $40,000 by today's standards. We're going to get into all of this and more with this, how much all the actors were paid and more in this movie. J-Def, please play us in. And YouTube audience, stay along for the ride. We're back.
We are.
Just Tony and I this time. No Sean.
And we're sorry. I know it's disappointing, but we'll get Sean on another time.
Yeah. Sean will be back. What movie are we doing again this week?
American Graffiti. You sound super excited to talk about it, and it's kind of funny because you just did a comment about the movie. Kind of about the movie, not actually directly related to the movie, but Harrison Ford, he's ever present in American cinema.
Yeah. So what's funny about that whole exchange that you just witnessed, something that people who listen to podcasts may not know, is that podcasting is a very intimate experience with the other partner. There's a lot of, I wasn't going to use, I wasn't going to go as far as it needed to go, but the audience knows what I'm talking about. There's a lot of give and take. And so sometimes you give and sometimes you take. And right there, I laid it up for Tony to start talking about the movie. And he chose to be a complete and utter asshole about it.
So let's rewind it.
Yeah.
We're actually talking about American Graffiti, a movie that I would hope that Harrison Ford got paid more to be in. But I'm guessing he didn't.
Absolutely not.
Based on your look. Did he get paid in that hat that he wore?
Absolutely not. Harrison Ford.
Did he get paid in horrible accent coach lessons?
His what the fuck accent is he even doing in this movie? Is it Minnesota or like Midwest? Like, what is that?
It was like a mix between Georgia and like Alaska.
It was
it was wild.
It was like angry white trash. Like, I saw what he was trying to do. I just don't know what part of the country he was referring to. But no, he did not get paid a lot for this job. As a matter of fact,
did he get paid? Hold on. Did he get paid in experience?
There was a lot of that going on in this movie, as we're going to find out.
Yeah.
I was going to save this, but let's do it now. He was initially offered $475 a week to film this movie.
What?
It was a 4-week shoot. He turned it down because he was making more than that per week at his carpenter job. So Lucas upped it to $500 a week, and Ford accepted on the condition that Lucas wouldn't make him cut his hair. And so to compromise, Lucas puts that god ugly hat on, and Harrison Ford made $2,000 to be in this movie. $500 a week.
So you're telling me the United States government is giving me more in stimulus money than Harrison Ford got for that entire performance?
Well, it's a different time. It was 1974. But yeah, I mean, can you imagine? You're like, well, my carpenter job pays more than that. So the 500, let's say the 500 a week.
Yes, I can, because at some of these jobs, I could work more as a server. So,
Well, no, yeah,
for
sure.
I can intimately.
I mean, we're talking
that.
I think it said that he's like the second or third highest billed person on this movie, by the way. So there was a lot of chicanery going on with this movie. Do you know what Lucas's first movie was? Nobody gets this.
I thought it was American Graffiti.
No,
but
no.
That's what is it?
I misspoke, and I actually had someone random DM me on Instagram who I've forgotten your handle. I'll get it up in a second. The first movie was THX 1138. which is
Shit.
also
Sean, if you're listening, I'm very sorry, because he and I had a conversation about that movie a while back.
I really hope that Sean wasn't driving as he was listening to this conversation, because he's in an accident, like right now. He just crashed his car into something out of like anger or confusion.
And there's a million and one different references to that movie in oh my God, I'm so
in this movie. The license plate on Johnny's car is THX 1138.
And then there's a droid in Star Wars. Like there's a bunch of references to it, and I'm
it's tough. It's tough. You hate to see it.
At least I didn't call it Star Wars Clone Wars Episode 2. But
yeah, I mean,
but even then, that's just me clawing to something to make me feel better, and it's just sad. It's sad. And
I hope that Sean's still alive. I really do.
I do too.
So with that movie, Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola, for the uncultured swine out there,
not Sophia.
No. He thought the movie was too weird, and he pushed George to do something more relatable. So George made hang on.
Francis Ford Coppola said to make a movie more relatable.
Yeah, this is where it gets good. This is where it gets good, though.
Oh, has he seen Godfather Part 3?
We have to save all of our juice. Yeah, we have to save all of our juice on that movie. So this is all like half-ass, and it's been confirmed by some people, denied by others. Lucas responded to that criticism by saying making a relatable movie is easy. If you just put a sad cat, the audience will cry and relate to it, and they'll be in love with the characters.
Okay, George.
So
George, no, don't put a sad cat. Put a sad dog. Then yes. Sad cat, no.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit about cats. Like I'm just gonna say it. Like the most devout cat owner doesn't love their cat as much as the average dog owner. It's just a fact.
I would kill a small village if someone even looked at Dinger the wrong way.
Right. Like it's like a care to the point where you get violent with another person.
And on site, no ifs, ands, buts. No, I wouldn't even think about it. It would just happen.
I'm willing to go to prison right now because you fucked with my dog.
Absolutely.
So Lucas decides to make this movie as his relatable, sarcastic response. The film this is how Lucas puts it, loosely based on his real life.
No, it's not.
I have no earthly idea what the fuck could be related to anybody's life in this movie.
But you know how I knew he wrote it?
I know, but yes, go ahead.
Because the dialogue is dog shit. The dialogue is awful. It is absolutely terrible.
Okay, we're jumping the gun on a lot of things, but
okay, no. Then if you had somewhere where you wanted to go, we'll save that. I'll save that comment. Where'd you want to go from here?
This movie comes out 1973. Okay. It's made for $700,000. Guess how much it's made?
Oh, let's say it's made 10 million.
It's made $200 million worldwide.
$200 million?
Yes. It is one of the most successful movies in terms of multiple on investment of all time. Because of that number.
He needs it. He needs it. Right. I don't know if you know this, but the following project's not that successful. Yeah, so I'm so glad that he has American Graffiti, a movie. Huge George Lucas fan myself. I had never seen it until I was prepping for this podcast. $200 million.
$200 million. It's one of the most.
For what?
It's one of the most successful movies of all time in terms of, because you got to remember this movie also comes out in like the VHS DVD age where everybody's buying a shit ton of those, and it really drives up the price of how much a movie can make. He made this movie at 29 years old, which coincidentally all the characters in this movie are around 29 years old, and it's very off-putting that they're supposed to be 19.
Yeah. Well, which is weird because you would think he would have wanted to capitalize on the lack of child labor laws back then. I mean, if he's going to be making a movie for $700,000, I mean,
but shit. I mean,
get both Olsen twins in there. Like, let's go. Let's start getting them working. We have we may or may not cut this, but this might be too good to cut.
I'm back.
This might be too good to cut. You know what?
Leave it
he's
on.
standing up. He's standing up.
It on.
Oh.
No, all my shit was disconnected when I threw it in a fury when my laptop just shut off. So
wow.
I'm glad
we're back. He was going through a tunnel. He is back.
The Tim and Tony podcast is back. I'm trying to compose myself after just throwing a shit fit for like 2 seconds.
This is great. This is great. So
great. We give you the best content here. See, the thing about this is that only the people on YouTube are even going to get what just happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people on the podcast are horrifically confused right now.
And see, this is why you got to listen to it twice.
That's right.
For the podcast listeners, go over to YouTube. Hi.
That's right.
How are you? I hope you're having a great day. I hope you enjoy this lovely, lovely little pastel.
Yeah, we got some artwork there.
We got some artwork. We've got, of course, nothing on your wall, which that's an intentional choice. But hey, no American Graffiti up on your wall. How's that? How's that for a tie-in?
I don't see myself really buying any American Graffiti apparel. There's some movies I want stuff from. This isn't one of them.
Oh no! I meant literally like graffiti. Sorry.
Oh,
if you have to explain the joke, it's not as funny.
Yeah,
I was trying to tie it back in, but you weren't paying attention. You missed it.
It's tough.
Yeah,
it's what we do.
It's a swing and a miss. It's a swing and a miss.
That's could be the title of my memoir.
Yeah.
So the movie was shot in 28 days. It was filmed in sequence. So they filmed between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. for 28 days straight. And the reason they filmed in sequence is so that at the end of the movie, they all look tired as shit like the real characters would be.
And
which they do.
The acting got worse and worse as time went on.
Okay, I want to do this now. That's it. I've had enough.
I've poked the bear.
No. I've had enough. The first 15 minutes of dialogue in this movie are reprehensible.
Awful.
There's
just awful.
There's not a single moment that makes any kind of sense whatsoever. They're all doing like over the top accents and stereotypical awful 1970s acting. I can't stand it.
If we're going to talk about the first 15 minutes, there's only one thing that I want to talk about. There's only one thing. Lori is just not she's not down to help somebody. Quote, "We can't keep chasing down girls for you all night." What else are you doing, Lori? What else are you doing? Are you busy? No, you're not. You couldn't just turn the car one road down so that, Richard Dreyfuss could maybe meet the girl of his dreams? No.
Yeah. Could you turn right? Could you turn right, Lori?
Turn right.
Yeah.
It's green. Turn right. You're in the right lane because it's one lane. You can turn there. Oh, we can't keep doing that. Why not?
I'm with you. I want you to know that I'm with you. She is kind of the worst, and she is like the stereotypical 1970s wet blanket.
Yeah. And by the way, the actor, she played it great. It's because George Lucas.
You're getting to a point.
Because George Lucas is a dude in the 1970s, on top of that, who doesn't know how to write dialogue. So, ergo, he's just going to go to every single stereotype he knows, that being the 1970s wet blanket girlfriend.
So, there's 2 more big pieces of background, and these are the ones you're going to love the most because I know you.
Okay.
I know you're going to love this.
Is Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Brady, or LeBron James in any way related?
I don't think any of those people were born yet, Tony. But this movie was supposed to be filmed in San Rafael, California.
Oh,
they got kicked out after the second day of filming because it doesn't say where.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
They just got kicked out because they didn't get any sort of permitting or anything. They just like went out and did this like it was a fucking student film.
George,
And
what
they
are you
kicked
doing?
them out.
George. Okay. See, I thought you were
Now
gonna
here's
say. I thought you were gonna say it got like relocated to Carlsbad or something, or
no,
Oceanside or something like that. Okay, I got
no.
excited.
Now these two, this one's the best.
Okay.
Due to the low budget, Lucas couldn't pay all of the crew. So like the camera, the lighting people.
Oh boy.
So what he did, this is the first time this was done in a movie. He offered them what we now know is a screen credit in lieu of payment. So before this movie, normal like crew members, like non-lead actors, would not get a screen credit at the end of movies.
What?
This was the first time they did because Lucas gave them that instead of fucking paying them because they had no money to give them.
Okay, so screen credit meaning like at the ending rolling credits or before the movie starts?
At the end. Yes, at the end. Traditionally, there was no credits for crew members. And now we have like the third assistant light guy on there.
Yeah.
But yes.
And I think this is the last George Lucas movie that ever had any name of any person from the movie before the title sequence. Because he famously didn't do that and wasn't in the Directors Guild, and that's why Spielberg and didn't direct episode 6 and all that. We're getting down a tangent, but I don't know that to be true, so sorry. But it feels like that's one of the last ones. Maybe Red Tails, he did it. I don't know.
I'd have to think if with what they did in Indiana and some other stuff.
Yeah.
The movie almost doesn't get made until Coppola, fresh off Godfather, came in and pushed for it.
Nice.
Which just incredible. And the final.
So he did impact another good movie other than The Godfather?
He did. He did.
Cool.
I love that take by you because unfortunately it's what I share. Like, he may have made one of the greatest movies of all time, but he kind of peaked early. Just saying. Just saying. The last piece.
Anybody can have one good idea, Tim. Anybody.
Yeah. Blind squirrel finds a nut. Ironically, George Lucas missed his high school reunion because he was too busy making this movie. That's the last piece of bar trivia.
That is not right.
No, it's not.
With that.
No, it's not. So
okay,
we've done a little bit on the beginning, but I want to ask you, which character do you think Lucas said is based on him?
Ron Howard.
No. He says that I was more like John at the beginning of the and then I became more like Steve, who's played by Ron Howard. So he sees himself in the John drag racing character, which is like when you talk about,
that's just wrong.
Some people have absolutely no ability to see how other people perceive them. Like, it's actually a skill that a lot of successful people have. Like, they're unable to have any self-awareness. I described self-awareness with like 3 sentences there. That was fun. They have no self-awareness whatsoever. Lucas is one of those people.
It sounds like you might lack self-awareness in your ability to not be able to describe what self-awareness is. That was fun.
No. I'm a self-entitled prick, as most people who start podcasts with their
their name in the title, and who argues to have their name first, though it does sound better. But yes, this is great.
This movie, like, honestly, if I wasn't doing it for a podcast and I didn't know that this was supposed to be great, the first 15 minutes turned me off so much that I wanted to turn the movie off.
So I was proud of myself. You know how much I like to utilize the rankings to kind of figure out what movies I want to see, but then the movies that I'm going to see regardless, I just don't even look at it because I want to go into it fresh. I knew I was going to watch this movie. I didn't look at a single thing. Halfway through, I'm like, this had to have just gotten murdered critically. And then I look, and it might be his highest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes ever.
People absolutely love this movie. It has like a cult-like following, and not just that, like, it made $200 million worldwide.
Yeah,
like, people love this fucking movie. My take on that is that back then, and even now, I don't really understand this. There's a period of life that directors are super reluctant to cover, and it's 18 to 25. You either have to do.
This is now the second time we talked about it. So yeah, no, you're totally right, because it's just kind of a meh period of depression and being poor. But go ahead.
But yeah, it's like you either have to do the college party movie, or you have to,
which has been done.
Yeah, or it's like the young successful guy who's in his like mid to late 20s. It's
Spoiler.
never like, yeah, yes, I was thinking like any number of Tom Cruise movies in the 90s, but yes.
Yeah.
This 18 to 25 period is so just underserved in terms of representation of movies, and that's one of the reasons that I think Good Will Hunting hits with so many people, is because it covers this period for people and it actually resonates with them. My question about the beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
Did it turn you off how rich all of these kids clearly are?
Ooh.
How much these kids are clearly, except for
Richard Dreyfuss.
Yes. I should say that.
Except for Richard Dreyfuss. Yeah. So here's why it didn't turn me off, Tim, because back then, stuff was affordable. And you could have nice stuff without being all that wealthy, and you didn't have to work that hard to have nice stuff. So, you could have these nice cars, and, the guy was even saying, I'll give you $1,000 for it.
One of the things that's
supposed to be like, whoa, this is the nicest car in the whole movie. $1,000. All right.
I just love when John's like, I ain't going to no goddamn fancy college. First of all, it was horrific acting. But the thing that made it so funny was that they were talking about how expensive college is in 1973.
Yeah,
I actually wanted to like pull their throats out.
Yeah.
Through the TV.
Yeah, no.
Because I was like, you could have worked for like 10 hours a week and paid for college back then, my guy.
But see, that's the thing. They didn't want to work.
That's the thing. Boomers are entitled.
They're entitled. They're entitled, and it's just it's sad, really.
They expect to be handed an education. It's fine.
Social Security, like they just expect us to pay for their existence.
Absolutely, it's incredible.
And because of that, we need more energy. Thus, the coffee.
Absolutely. thus, we spend our mortgage on coffee.
Exactly.
Can you just talk for a second how fucking Richard Dreyfuss and Ron Howard are just casually in this film? Like,
when I was in preparation mode for this movie, I was like I was doing a little bit of background into, how George Lucas went about doing the movie. I didn't do any research into who was in the movie, because it was my understanding that it was a bunch of nobodies and Harrison Ford. And Harrison Ford was in it, but he wasn't one of the main characters. So I was bracing for that. And then I remember texting you and you said, yeah, the Ron Howard character. I'm like, wait, Ron Howard? Like the Ron Howard? Yes. And then he came on the screen and I stood up. I was like, wow, that's a choice. Just his whole thing.
All of it.
His whole aura. That's a choice.
I mean, the fact that he was
worked, but it was a choice.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, all these people are in like their mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
And it was never creepier than when Ron Howard's character has graduated from high school and goes back to a high school dance. That was like cringy as all hell. And he's like smoking with the guy out back. I'm just like, this is a different time.
And then what we would now call nowadays as sexual assault in his vehicle.
Yeah. That really not great. I mean, I
wonder if that's what George Lucas is talking about, seeing himself in a character.
Yeah, I hope not. I really hope not, because
might be a like Kevin Spacey House of Cards type of slip. Who knows?
I really hope not. And it's not even, that scene. It's not even done in the way that Back to the Future did, which also gets criticized for the way it portrayed a sexual assault scene. In Back to the Future, it was clearly portrayed as like this horrific evil thing that needed to be stopped by the protagonist. And whether you agree with them using that as a plot device,
yeah,
reasonable minds could differ. This one was more like she's such a bitch for her.
Yeah,
Like,
to be clear, that's what the viewer is supposed to get from that scene.
That's clearly what they're supposed to get and think. When she comes up and she's whining about everything.
You know, I'm saying that's not what you're saying.
The women, the other thing though, the women in this movie, we talked about it a little bit, where it was like they're all wet blankets or obsessed with their boyfriends. There's just absolutely no in between with these people.
That's what happens when you don't know how to write women at 29. I don't know a single 29-year-old male.
What was the girl? I'm sorry, the girl who he's like hollering at her outside of his window at like midnight, and she's just like, cool, I'll get in with you and drive to the middle of nowhere. I was like, this has never happened in the history of this country. Yeah. That's like the most creepy fucking Debbie was her name. I couldn't handle that scene. I was just like, this is not happening. This is where like my belief is going out the window a little bit.
Yeah, I would have liked them to get younger actors for the reason that, like, I think Harrison Ford was the only person that was Harrison Ford and Richard Dreyfuss, oddly enough, were the only two that I thought that were correctly cast.
Well, the little girl was pretty young. I forget her name. I'm sorry.
The girl that's driving around. Yeah, I'm talking about the more the main characters. It just seemed like Ron Howard's the age of who would be a teacher, a chaperone at this dance, and he's exhibiting some PDA in the middle of the in the dance floor. It seems a little weird, seems a little odd. And we're sad. Like,
well, and we're supposed to think he's cool for telling off his principal. I'm like, you're a grown ass man. I hope that like some high school principal can't just tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
God. What? Yeah. So that happened. What? So you keep pulling out this iPad. It's very.
I have lots of things on here.
Yeah.
I have so many things. Here's my controversial take. And I want to say this clearly into the mic. I don't understand how this generation has not brought back the phrase bitchin'. Bitchin' is...
I've been trying. I use it.
It's one of the greatest phrases of the 70s and 80s. And for some reason, our generation, who that phrase just encapsulates everything like about us in some ways.
Absolutely.
We just can't bring it back. I don't understand it. I think we should use it on this podcast for petting.
I was gonna say the movement starts here for on, let's see, January, February, March, April. It's April. Yeah, there we go. That's how I figure out what month it is. It's April 6th, 2021. The movement starts today, Tim. And this is getting released tomorrow. So the 7th. Tomorrow the movement starts.
We're
bringing bitchin' back.
That's really dangerous because you and I predicted the fall of the movie industry.
Hey,
and we also predicted Zion's first year wouldn't be as good as people are making it out to be.
And
we predicted baseball wouldn't be back before July 4th.
And
so many things that we have just handed out on this podcast.
Who's the vice president of the United States?
Oh, we did hand that out. I
did, but yes, we under the Tim and Tony umbrella, we did. Yes. So bitchin', it's back, baby.
Bitchin's back. And so is a phrase that we're going to use later on in the podcast. I'll save that for a different time.
Good teaser.
The cars in this movie are insane.
They're
absolutely ridiculous.
So that was my favorite part of the movie was
the entire movie.
Yeah, because I love cars. My dad, I know you know this, Tim, but for the listeners, my dad's a huge fan of cars, and thus he has made me a huge fan of cars. I've got shit all over my room and all over my house concerning cars.
I love that you called it my house. That was fun.
What?
No, I just love that you referred to it as my house. Anyways, keep going.
The house that I currently live in. that
Thank you.
that definitely can't afford.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to be in the world of, the street racing, just the street racing world that George Lucas tried to do.
Well, it's
Very much tried to do. And then every single car scene, we have to go through a junkyard. We absolutely have to. And it was a very odd scene because, again, it's John walking with a 11-year-old. It's just weird. And then he fakes being into her to get her to tell him where she lives. Weird. But the car stuff, very cool.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is clearly from that. It's an early grunge era film,
Right.
Obviously, and I don't know if he was in this movie, but I know that Bruce Springsteen has said that he was very heavily influenced by it. This is around the time that he was starting to come out with stuff.
Right.
I mean, you can see that sort of ethos in a lot of the characters in what many people have said is a fake ethos of Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
Which, fair or foul, it is clearly based on some of the characters in this movie.
Sure.
The scene where he gets pulled over is really interesting for any number of different reasons. Number one, it has the best line in the whole movie, which is "File that under chicken shit" in his drawer, in his thing full of tickets, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
The second thing is that it's either right before or right after the guy who's on the radio the whole time, Wolfman Jack.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you picked up on this, but just for our listeners, is the only black character in this film. And he is a real life disc jockey. He does come
really?
back. Yeah, no, he's a real life disc jockey. He was
cool.
He was famous back in the day, so it was cool to have him involved.
Bitchin'.
You sounded like a 40-year-old dad saying it there.
That's why. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
Yeah.
He comes back.
I've got to get the right inflection and tone to it.
He comes back. He comes back for the much maligned sequel, which we will not be watching for this podcast.
I will intentionally not be watching because I watched the trailer and it looks awful.
Yeah,
it looks awful.
And there's a moment in this movie that shows you maybe how far we've come in some respects, where the little girl says, "My parents won't let me listen to him because he is a N-word. I am not obviously going to say the word that she used."
Yeah.
In that moment, because George Lucas sees himself as this hippie progressive of the 1970s, right?
Right.
And you look back and it's this is one of the most progressive showings of black people that we have at this time, where he's the soul of the movie in many ways, where he's constantly playing music throughout the film. He's constantly doing voiceovers throughout the film. He's kind of like their soundtrack.
Soul meaning he's the underlying idea and attitude that brings the movie together, since there's not a one character that's in the whole movie except for him.
Right. And one of the controversial things about this movie actually is that it takes place in 1964, and of all the songs that come on, there's no Elvis. The reason for that is, as we've been saying multiple times, they had a shitty budget, so they couldn't afford the licensing.
Too expensive.
Elvis songs. Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense. But that scene where the cop sees the kid in the passenger seat of someone he knows well, he knows that's not his sister, or related to him, because it's a small town and he's had run-ins with this kid before, coupled with the thing on the radio, coupled with the cop just letting him go. And it's kind of this hilarious scene.
Yeah.
In light of what's been going on recently, you go back and you're just oh, that's actually exactly like it is now. I would expect that scene to play out just like it did. A semi-well-off kid in a nice car with an underage person after midnight gets pulled over, and he throws the ticket into his chicken shit drawer with hundreds of other tickets that he has no intention of ever dealing with. It's kind of amazing. The whole scene, the tone of that scene is rather amazing to me.
Accurate. Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't have much else to say other than that. I think he described it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is going to be something you're passionate about, though, I know.
Oh, okay.
Well, before that, obviously, this movie is the inspiration for Superbad. Clearly, Superbad is influenced by this movie. They've admitted it as much. The whole movie takes place in a night. Crazy shit happens that you can't believe.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera.
And The Hangover. Yeah.
These people are obsessed with this idea of quote unquote parking. I just want to say this clearly. The realities of parking are nothing like the movies try to make it out to be, for this simple reason. It's very uncomfortable. It's very hard to pull off, very hard to do well. These movies all make it seem like we're just wandering around in cars.
They were back then. There were less of them on the road. And they're in some podunk town. So it doesn't matter. There's no laws out there. I'm just saying
it's very difficult. The way it's portrayed in movies, I'm very uncomfortable with, because it's always like,
oh yeah, well, because yeah. I mean, these actors, especially these actors, they're trying to remember lines, they're trying to do all this stuff. None of these are Tom Cruise people. They're not going to great lengths to, oh yeah, because there's one scene where I come out of a car. I became a Formula One race driver, actually. So if you need me to do any driving stunts, I'm your guy. Yeah, they're not doing that.
And they're all short. Actors are short. So
yes.
it looks
like Tom Cruise.
More proportion. Yeah, especially like Tom Cruise. Do you relate to any of these characters at all? Because I don't. 50 years later, my main takeaway was this is one of the quote unquote most relatable movies of all time. It's people that are literally around my age or close enough in age that I can remember what it was like to be them. I can't empathize with their decision making.
Arguing for leaving your hometown to in search of, and by the way, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, if we can all just tell Tim in unison to get into the camera.
Yeah.
That would be swell if he could do that.
Gotcha.
We're trying to do better every day. But yeah, making the argument for leaving your hometown in search of a different life, and then having a conversation with someone, why would you leave your home to get a new home, just in search of a new home? It seems counterintuitive. That conversation I have had before. That conversation I have been very frustrated in before. And so I would say that was actually a strikingly good bit, as much as we poke fun at George Lucas's ability to write dialogue. That was actually very well done. That was that actually hit well. That hit home pretty well.
The chicken shit drawer is the funniest thing.
That too.
That's by far the best line in it.
Yes.
Why would you leave home to find a new home? I do want to dig into that a little bit, because again, this they're all like 19 years old in the movie, give or take 18, 19, just graduating high school.
Right.
So they're in that liminal space where absolutely, and I know that that's like a douchebag term to use. All it means is that it's a space where nothing's concrete and anything can happen, and where mischievous things can. It's like the area between the ocean and the sand on the beach. It's constantly getting changed and washed up.
Or more down to earth comparison. We could either be, a trial lawyer, or we could be selling feet pics on OnlyFans. Or hell, that could be happening at the same time.
No, what you just said has nothing to do with liminal spaces whatsoever.
It came in my brain. Thought I'd bring it up.
I see that because you said it. This liminal space that these people are in is the only thing that's relatable about this movie. I don't relate to their decision-making abilities in it, but this idea that I graduated high school, I have no idea what I fucking want to do at all. Everybody's telling me to go different ways. And then Richard Dreyfuss's character, who is like apparently really smart, just gets in with a gang randomly in this movie, which was a hard turn. But I mean, it just shows how impressionable all these people are. Steve at the beginning of the movie, which is the beginning of the night, is the one pushing Dreyfuss's character to come out with him the next day on the plane. I think it's to a college in New York. And by the end of the movie, he's doing the whole, I'm going to stay here for a year, which I'm going to talk about that at the end. because those two have so much fodder for conversation. I have to save them. But I guess watching this movie, I just thought, I don't know why this movie isn't made every 3 years or some version of it, because it is something that most people who have lived to be 18 years old can empathize with how these people feel.
Right.
This whole one night, fuck it, we're going to do whatever we want. Let's go crazy. The one thing that I did find it is an interesting choice was at the end of the movie where they sum up the people's lines in like a sentence.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting choice because literally the whole movie is spent on this one night where they focus in on every minute detail of this one moment of these people's lives. And then they sum up the rest with a sentence.
See, my thought when I saw that was instantly, because this is George Lucas who wrote it and directed it, was instantly, oh my God, there is a American Graffiti world that I'm sure he was planning on making dozens of these movies, and then it just so happened that Star Wars happened to hit, and that's the one that he just continued on with. Because then there's another movie that he wanted to make, but then didn't have enough time to make it, and so then because there was so much money to be had for it, and he didn't have enough by then, came out with it. So my instant reaction was that was a cliffhanger for whatever the impending movie was going to be. Like there was going to be a movie where we see I forget the character's name, him die, the guy that was babysitting the car.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure George Lucas was wanting to go that direction, and that's why that happened.
In his own weird ass way, it's got to be some sort of commentary on life, how it all just boils down to a sentence for all of us, and we should slow down and enjoy the moments. That's what he would probably want us to get out of it.
That's probably what he says it's what it was intended to do now.
Yeah, because I didn't really think about that one to come up with that. But I actually, thinking back on this movie, I enjoyed the movie, but it is it's one of those movies that time has aged it poorly.
Yeah.
Where so many of the things that go wrong in this movie could be solved with a cell phone. I always judge my old movies by that. Like if half the things that go wrong can be solved with like a cell phone, it's a tough watch. Like it really is.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think that a lot of stuff in this movie is done really well. We didn't even talk about the Pharaohs and them just robbing like a Peter Piper pizza or whatever the fuck that was.
How about the convenience store clerk just coming out and firing from the hip? Just spraying and praying and letting the miner run away with the bottle. Don't care about that. I'm gonna get that motherfucker who just stole that $1 bottle of what I would assume is whiskey.
Yeah, I don't know. He took his ass out. He comes out of the thing just dead eye. That was actually the most shocking scene of the movie. Not when Harrison Ford crashes his car. When that guy comes out and he's just got a gun and he fucking kills him. I mean, the other thing with that scene that I just don't get, this kid is standing right outside the door. Like just outside the door.
Like, man, you got to do a lot better than that. And maybe you didn't back in 1970, because it seems like every single movie that I see back then, everything was just easier back then than it is now. So, who knows? But you got to do better than that. Then, hey, mister, what time is it? Quarter to midnight. Quarter to midnight. Cool. Thanks. You gotta have more than that. You gotta have a little bit of confidence. You gotta have a little bit of stoicism about you.
Well, and the way that where the stand is, where the clerk is sitting, he can see out that door.
He can see you. It's a window. It's not a wall. Come on.
That's one thing that Superbad did get a lot better than this movie. This kid is just like right before people put their hand on the door is asking them to commit a crime. And the funny thing is that the one guy who's just, they're all like pretty much down for it, which I thought was funny. That convenience store clerk, when he's
done with y'all hooligans shit. He's done getting robbed. He doesn't want the bottle back. He just wants to get your ass. I respect it in a certain respect. I respect it in a certain respect. I'm so good at this stuff. Because it's the principle of the thing. It's not the thing. It's the principle of the thing. And it's midnight. I'm sure he's dealt with a lot that day. And I'm sure that he's dealing with a lot in his life. There's probably a lot of moments and forks in the road that brought him to where he currently is, where he has a pistol just at the ready.
The most interesting characters in this movie get the least screen time. Like that.
Oh, yeah.
That store clerk. I want the George Lucas prequel on that guy.
I want if Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni can write me a Disney Plus TV show about that, that'd be fantastic.
The Pharaohs Gang are the second most interesting group of people to me, followed by, and we get just virtually nothing on them other than they're a gang and they steal and they've probably killed people before. That's about it.
Yeah,
it was a cartoon version of a gang.
And they harass the cops and they get their car to completely, in the wildest way possible, to explode in a manner that, in true George Lucas fashion, just defies the laws of physics.
Makes no sense. Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever.
Like, man, I can't imagine when Engine is in those police cruisers to just yank the body off of the rear axle like that. I can't imagine. But go ahead. No, your favorite something. You had a favorite something.
Well, my favorite unbelievable part of this movie is that Harrison Ford's character is traveling the country and he's heard of this teenager who's so good at drag racing that, again, before the internet, Harrison Ford has clearly heard of him and he's seeking him out in this shit town
and picking up random women to ride with him in said town.
Yeah.
Not to do anything, at least in the movie.
That's right. It happened twice. No, it happened twice where a guy's like shouting out the window and the girl gets in. I'm like, what are we doing? We should have. This is why people our age still do this stupid shit. It's because they think it works, and it absolutely does not. Do not.
And George Lucas obviously thinks it works.
That guy.
Anyways, we'll leave that. The discussion about the rear axle and all that is a perfect segue, and I'm using the term perfect very liberally, but it's a perfect segue into something that I did want to talk about, Tim.
Oh, good.
What, out of all the cars in the movie, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot, I'm going to pose you the question, and then I'll give you my answer so that you can have a second to think about it. Out of all the cars in the movie, which cars, and again, for our YouTube viewers, Tim's enormous hands just right in the shot. Just fantastic.
Well, I want to make sure that I have it right.
Yeah, and because you have a Dell that has the webcam at the bottom, which was just a genius idea for them.
Well done by Dell.
Yeah, just phenomenal.
We can't disparage anybody, dude. You never know when they're going to become when someone's going to want to sponsor us. So Dell, if you're listening, you suck at making products, but we'll advertise your shit.
They fixed it though,
right?
So that's good. So
this podcast brought to you by Dell. We're getting a cease and desist. Go ahead, Tony.
So my favorite car also brings up just a horrific missed opportunity for George Lucas, for Harrison Ford, and the movie in general. My favorite car is the 55 Chevy 150, the black 4-door that Harrison Ford's driving in. That's my favorite car. That's the one. If I had to pick it, that if I could pick any of the cars, that's the one that I would want. And John Milner even says in the movie that it was winning. So that's the car I'd want. But George, you have an actor with the last name Ford. How in God's green earth do you allow him not to be driving a Ford? And how in God's green earth, when you already know you're under budget, not reach out to Ford and say, hey guys, is there something here? Is there a possibility that we can have a partnership here? Nothing. Just absolutely nothing. I looked it up to see if there was anything going on with that. Nothing. George, you are the merchandising king. How is it possible that he could have been losing a step before he even gained the step? I don't know. Yeah. I was pissed off to the highest order because I talked to my dad after this movie. By the way, my dad loves this movie because it's about cars. It's never made sense to him either. He saw it back when it came out because, you know, he's of a certain age where he was going to theaters back in those days. It pissed him off because, like, wait, the guy's last name is Ford and they stuck him in a Chevy. It's bad.
Tough.
It's bad.
It's tough, especially looking back to see the career that Ford would eventually have.
It's incredible.
I mean, I thought you were going to go a different route where they were selling the Corvettes on the lot. How is that car not in this movie? And really, the Corvette.
Oh,
the
I was getting to that.
The Vet
you want
is.
Me to do that now?
It's not in the shot. The Corvette is not in that shot. There's no way.
Do you want me to do that now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Want me to save it?
No, go ahead.
The disrespect that we are giving to the most beautiful car ever made. Again, have it right here, fellas. Or fellas.
Wow.
Hopefully there's some ladies.
Yeah, why'd you have to gender that? That was weird.
Because I see the analytics, Tim. That's why. Because I see the analytics. I know our demo. But for the ladies watching out there as well, this is the most beautiful car ever made. A 1963 split window Corvette. How is it not in the movie, George?
Well, it was kind of because the guy's like,
it's not.
Well, you can. He's like the car dealer's like, you could buy a new Corvette with this, and
yeah, but it wouldn't have been a 63. How are you making a car movie at this point in car history in the 70s? And you're not going to include you're not going to include a Corvette in any of the cars that they're racing. One, and two, you're not going to even. You're not going to include the 63.
They didn't have the hindsight, I think, because if you were going to remake this movie now, it would be the 64 Stang, the 63 Vet, and I'm trying to Camaro's a little bit after that for their
and the
best
58
body
Impala.
style. Yeah, I mean, they would probably go more of those cars instead of whatever fucking rat rod they had John Milner in. I mean,
whoa, really?
That car's
That's
ugly.
Your take?
That car's ugly
What?
that he's driving. That car, that yellow thing that he's driving is hideous.
That yellow thing
that's one of the most ugly cars I've ever laid eyes on.
Okay, Tim.
Not even close.
Do you mean the 1932 Ford 5-window coupe? Is that what you meant? Is that what
the fuck that car was? It hurt my eyes. I felt like I was having my eyes gouged out by a fucking toothpick the entire time.
So you are so wrong about this on so many.
No, leave a comment.
This is
let Tony know. Leave a comment for those of you on YouTube.
This is the hot rod. This is when you say hot rod. This is what every single person who knows what they're talking about. This is the car that they think about first. Now, is it the most important? Is it the fastest? Is it all that? No, it's the original.
Does it look good? No. Yeah. Okay. Keep going. This is great.
Bad taste.
I have certain tastes that I am aware are just
everybody for our YouTube audience. Look at his walls. He doesn't have taste. Everybody, and this man is saying that a 32 Ford is ugly.
Yeah, this is one that I'm not worried about. Whereas, like, there's times where you and Sean try to get me on Star Wars stuff and try to send the mob after me that, you know, bullies people like no other film fan base that we have. This is not one of those times where I'm worried. That car is ugly. I'm not even worried about this thing.
My dad is gonna come over there and beat the shit out of you. I'm gonna send him a sound clip of that. He's gonna kill you. Just FYI. A 62-year-old man is gonna come over to your house and beat the hell out of you. Just be ready.
The thing is that for those of you who don't know, Tony's dad absolutely could kick my ass, so that's mildly threatening.
And that's why I moved states, so that, you know, I would have some run time to make sure.
Right. You have some time to think about it. Maybe hit a few pull-ups before it gets there or something. Here's the question of the movie. I'm going to ask you the question.
You haven't answered my question.
Oh, it's Ford's car. It's the 55 whatever. The Deuce Coupe. Yeah. That's the car.
55 whatever.
Yeah.
That's Tim's pick.
Yeah.
Wow. Car guy. Big car guy.
No, see, look, I like cars. I don't obsess over cars. I'm not like a guy that knows everything about cars going back to forever. Like, I see a nice car and I'm like, I really fucking want that car, but I don't.
No, you see a nice car and you call it a piece of shit.
No. See, I'm one of those people that would definitely be in danger of like saving up money for a mortgage and then being like, I want a car instead. Like, I'm definitely one of those people who would think about it. So no, I love cars, but I don't.
Anyways, this is just hurting.
I'm not well versed in the history. What do you want?
It's hurting me.
What do you want?
What's the question of the movie, Tim?
Yeah, let's talk about the movie instead of the fucking cars.
You mean the movie about the cars? Okay.
It's not even really about cars. It's more about that 18 to 25-year-old vexing that's going on. It's not really about cars. But I see why somebody who likes cars would make it about cars. Does Steve and Laurie make it? What are the odds?
Oh my God, no.
It took him 2 seconds. He didn't even think about it.
He's wanting to break up so he can sleep around. And then he's saying, "Come on, honey, don't you want something I need something to remember you by. Do you want me to forget you?" That's not spoken like a man that's going to be committed. Turns out in the trailer, apparently they're still together, which again,
that's bad writing.
You want to talk about some poor writing, George. You want to talk about some poor ass writing, like having siblings kiss. This blows.
I don't like sand. Sorry. Had to work it in. Since all the episode 2 people already hate me anyways.
It's rough and coarse and gets everywhere.
Gets everywhere. I fucking hate the way he writes dialogue. Like, the funny thing is that he recently came out and was like, no, the reason that Star Wars characters talk so weird is because that's the world that they live in. And it's like,
if we had an award for biggest retcon, that is the biggest pile of horse shit. We would call it the George Lucas retcon award. Because
absolutely.
That is just absolutely terrible.
That's revisionist history. Terrible. Because now that I've seen American Graffiti, I know, no, that's how you think people talk, because you've never talked to another human being in your entire life. I'm actually convinced of it. Like, I don't know. If you told me that George Lucas was like a monk for the first 25 years of his life before he became a film director, I'd believe it. Because
it would make some of the more sexual scenes in the movie a little bit more troubling. But yes.
Yeah. But the way he has characters talk to each other makes no sense. Nobody talks to each other that way then, now, they never will. The Stephen Laurie thing, I thought it was one of the weirdest decisions ever to be like, so Steve, this character who his whole goal of the entire movie is to go to college and sleep with a bunch of women, is all of a sudden he feels bad, so he's going to not go to college for a year, and work on a high school relationship.
There's a reason why nowadays the divorce rate is now 50%.
Because of people like that? Is that what you're saying?
There's reasons why the divorce rate is at 50% nowadays.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Get
I would
into it.
I would imagine, and I almost contributed to it. I would imagine that a lot of it has to do with high school relationships.
It just makes no sense.
It makes no sense in this movie because think about the one thing that Lori wants to do the entire movie. She wants to stay. She wants to stay put. She doesn't want to turn right. She just wants to keep going straight. She doesn't want to turn right to help somebody else. She just wants to keep going straight. And that's all she ever wants to do.
Are you projecting onto her? Has
No.
this ever happened to us? Is this
never.
like something that happened in our past where you were sitting in the back seat, third wheeling, and I was like, no, let's not turn? Are you projecting it all right now? I'm trying to go back in my lexicon to see if this has ever happened before.
Hold
on to it.
Yeah, think about that for a second, Tim.
We'll hold on to it.
I'm trying to draw in some personal experience from you to maybe get you to talk about it because this is a safe space. But all she wants to do is keep going straight. While Steve, he probably would have turned. But since she's saying not to, that's the decision right there. There it is. You can't. Now you got to keep going. You got to keep going straight.
Also, why does he give that kid his car? He's like, here, watch my car for me. Like, you don't need someone to watch a car like it's a fucking pet. he's gonna drive
that car.
He's gonna drive that thing in the middle of the woods with some girl he just met with illegal booze and then lose it. That's what you deserve to have happen.
That's
actually.
George Lucas's grasp at a plot device.
Yeah, like as soon as he did it, I was like, okay, obviously this car is going to be in bad shape by the end of this movie. Like that's just how that's how that plot device works. But it made no sense at the time and made less sense as it went along because that's one of their more irresponsible friends, clearly. Like that kid is
that's the Josh of the group.
Yeah, he means well, but he's down for whatever.
He is the nicest, happiest person that you'll meet. But I'll be damned if he just lets shit happen.
I think Steve's going to be enrolled in whatever university by spring, would be my guess. He's heading out to New York by spring. Probably 3 weeks after this movie ends in our timeline, those fuckers are breaking up. There's no question.
Who cheats first?
Ooh, I like this question, actually. This is right in my wheelhouse. Here's the thing. It's not Steve for this reason.
Oh, wow.
It's not Steve.
So you're siding with the guy. Okay.
No. I'm not siding with him. And I'm actually going to come off like an asshole here. Steve.
Should I mute for a second?
No. It's
clear
fine.
The floor. Should I
know,
back off ISO?
I know what I'm going to say.
Okay.
When Steve has the opportunity in the diner, you see what an actual wuss he is. He doesn't have the gall to actually cheat on someone. Now, Lori, however the hell you say her name.
Lori. It's your mother's name, so you
would
think that you would know how to say it. Different spelling, but you would figure you would know how to say it.
Given
the opportunity.
This is based on her character.
Given the opportunity. And this is based on the writing that George Lucas gave us, which is probably never a good thing. But
by the way, the percentage of women who have Harrison Ford now in his 70s ask them to get in a car is probably unbearably high. But that being said,
are you kidding me? Harrison Ford? Hell yeah, let's go.
That being said, within this realm of the movie, she is clearly like, I'm mad, I'm going to cheat. That is her personality.
And then she almost dies.
Steve, when he's mad, starts to like her more. He's one of those guys. We've all met them. I know that's fucked up to say. I'm not excusing cheating or saying that it's the better way to go at all. I am just saying it's not in Steve's personality, clearly.
Wow.
Do you have any follow-ups on that, or do you just let me
just
let it hang out there?
You're on an island, my friend. You are on the grassy knoll all by yourself on this.
He's the guy I want to say our friend's name so bad, but I know he listens to this podcast. He is the friend that is constantly talking about how he's sleeping with multiple women, but very rarely is.
Okay,
that is
so
Steve.
here's what we could do. We could try and edit it out.
No. No.
If you want to just whisper the name,
Nope.
ASMR style. No.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm not gonna do it.
All right.
But we all know who I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah. The two of us though.
Yeah.
And you guys all have friends like that. So
yeah. So here's another question. Again, a reoccurring question that we're going to be asking. If you could be anybody in this movie, who it would be?
Wow. I actually got stumped on this one. I mean, if I could be an actor, it's Harrison Ford. I don't even want to hear the discussion.
Not the question.
I don't want to hear the discussion. If I could be a person, it's probably Dreyfuss because he's the one that gets the hell out of there.
Damn it, Tim.
And that's it. That's beginning and end of analysis.
I hate it when you and I agree on this podcast.
Well, every other character sucks. They suck. They're bad people. I don't like any of them. I didn't enjoy spending time with any of them.
Yeah. Richard Dreyfuss's character, because the last shot that we see, he flies away.
He's free.
He gets out of there. And another question. Richard Dreyfuss. Does he meet her?
No. That's how that stuff works.
That's how that stuff works. You're speaking from experience. Do tell.
Look. Richard Dreyfuss.
He did fine for himself.
He did. He's not getting a girl like that. A girl like that.
Like that.
He's not. He's not. Like, unless he is much funnier than he appears in this movie. Because she'll wink at him, mess with him. She's not showing up in the middle of nowhere to meet him. It's not happening. She's got too many options.
Ooh.
She's got way too many options.
She called because it would be fun. She wasn't there. She was given two options. Either go to the place or call the place.
See?
She called the place.
She has too many options. She's not going to show up in the middle of nowhere for some kid.
And here's my follow-up question. Does she exist?
Yeah, so background on this. All the vacation movies do this gag where they have the hot female who appears in a daydream.
Yep.
I think in one she's real, like the first one she actually turns out to be real. I want to believe she's real. How's that? Because wow. I don't want
that's interesting psychologically, Tim.
No. I don't want the like one of the actual heartwarming moments of this movie to just have been fake.
It's 1,000% fake. It is 1,000. It's 100,000% not happening.
What's your evidence?
What's
your evidence?
Okay, the only times that we see this person pop up.
Yeah.
Is at the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
At the middle of the movie and at the end of the movie. At each one of these times, Richard Dreyfuss is not talking when he sees her. And he has the glazed look over his eye when he's doing it. And if we're just going purely on odds, and now I'll save that one. I don't know how easy it is to call a payphone. I don't know what the logistics are of that. I'm not aware.
Okay.
I'm not of the correct generation to ask that question. Maybe we should have gotten my dad on for this one. Give us some insight into a lot more stuff. Like, was every restaurant just Sonic basically? But that's again a whole other question. So I don't know the logistics of that. I don't know the likelihood that she was listening to that radio station. And what are the odds that she's doing a Paul Walker at the end of Fast and Furious 7 drive away at the exact same time that Richard Dreyfuss is flying away in what looked like a pretty nice jet at that point?
Can I give a rebuttal?
You may.
First of all, your thing with the radio, every character in this movie is listening to it. So I buy that she's listening.
But she's not in the movie.
I know, but back then there was like 3 radio stations. everybody listened to all of them. But that's not the point. What about the point that the girls that Dreyfuss gets stuck in the car with claim to know who she is?
They claim to, but
because they're like, oh, she's so and so's wife. Remember?
And then we hear that she's also a hooker. Nobody knows
Yeah,
who she is.
That's what I mean.
Nobody knows who she is.
So everybody's having the hallucination?
No, they're just trying to be cool and say, what do you think? Okay, bring yourself back to, the way that you would make decisions at, 18, 19 years old. Hey, do you know about X? Oh, of course I do. And then you make something up because you don't want to be the guy in the car that doesn't know what everybody else is talking about. So, of course, you're going to lie. 19-year-olds lie. They're giving just bullshit answers. And then, of course, a dude, it's like, oh, dude, she's too expensive. Like, it's just a stupid response that's not well thought out of. That's a douchey response. And he's also, like, at one point, he's, like, talking shit to the guy, but then also demeaning the woman. It's exactly what 19-year-old men do.
You're right on several of those points.
Thank you.
The thing about not knowing what you're talking about and pretending like you do, that's basically our job. I got one comment on that.
Thank you.
Somebody last week I talked about how there's several things that I haven't seen that I comment in this podcast on. That was a joke. There are certain things I have not watched all the way through.
And by the way, every single movie that we have done,
every movie I've watched. Movie I have watched. There have been some topics on sports and debates that I have not watched the entirety of what I was talking about. So calm down. I've watched every single movie, every single second. I actually put my phone, I lock it away when I watch these movies.
Oh, I didn't know that you kids could do that.
Yeah, no, it's actually, we're actually more mature than our parents with phones if you look up studies on it. Because
I get a quick side note. Was home for Easter. There were about 3 or 4 occasions where I just say, wow, these crazy kids and their phones, as both of my parents, and maybe I'm just not interesting enough with, hey, might be the case. But
it's definitely the case, but whether or not it applies here.
Exactly. Yeah. Whether or not that's the reasoning for this.
Yeah.
That's up for discussion. But there were multiple times where I'm standing there talking and they're both just on their phones. And I just stopped talking. And it takes a solid 45 seconds for them to realize that I stopped talking. So, yes, again, need to have my father on this podcast. Really do. That was a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the odds of what would you put the odds of him being able to operate Zoom?
0. And the other big takeaway from this is that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Most of the tropes that are in this mostly white 19 to 25-year-old male movie, I know a version of every character.
Yeah.
that was in this movie. Not much has changed. It is entertaining when people that were in this movie now come out now and say, oh, we're fucked because of how kids act. And it's like, go back and look at what you guys were into.
Yeah.
It's you would have been doing the exact same thing if the technology was provided to you 50 years later. It's just a fact. I know that because I've seen how you guys depict yourselves in art. And it's the same way we do now with less technology.
And they obsessed over radio personalities. You're really going to tell me they wouldn't obsess over TikTok people, over Instagram people, over all this stuff? Over us? Come on.
Dude, almost all of the stuff that they're like, oh, I will never do that. I actually believe them because they're obstinate, but if they were kids, they would absolutely do it. And that's the part that bugs me. There's people my age, 25, who are like, I will never get TikTok. That's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen. And I'm like,
but
it's
then,
actually,
but they, what they don't realize is that thing on Instagram, the middle button at the bottom, that's that's called Reels. That's just recycled TikTok.
Yeah, it's I don't know. When I was watching this movie, that was actually one of my big takeaways that I forgot to get to earlier, was just these people, like, I don't relate to any of them because I think they're all morons, but like I see those characters in my daily life. They felt semi-real to me. And this movie was made 50 years ago. And it's about about a time period 60 years ago.
Yeah. You and I were the friends that were at home studying. That's or like playing board games with our parents. Like that's who you and I were in this movie. We were the unseen children in the houses as they were flying by, as John Milner and Bob Alfalfa or however the fuck you say his name. It was just terrible. Just again, like this is it's in real world. It's in the real world. It's in the galaxy far, far away, and George Lucas still can't give people names. But that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I mean,
I actually think that people always talk about on podcasts, this is a common trope, who would be like your dream guest if like you could give them truth serum. Lucas is up there for me because there's clearly something in his brain that works on a different level than the rest of ours. And there's all the rest of it that he's just unbelievably deficient in. In terms of like world building, I don't know that we've ever had a better one. Maybe George R.R. Martin, maybe.
Finish the book, George. Wait, I keep seeing stuff come across my phone. Oh, George Lucas just signed, or George R.R. Martin just signed a deal to do X, Y, and Z. He's doing this production deal with HBO. I
think he wants the Lucas deal. I think he wants that.
And
he wants that
writing,
Lucas Disney money.
Yeah, and he's gonna be writing all these other shows. George, the fans, we have simple needs, and we've been asking for quite some time now. Just please finish the book.
Finish the fucking book.
You can make other shows. You can sign deals. God love you. Maybe join a gym. But other than that, finish the book. And I only say join a gym so that you can finish the book.
King of procrastination. So now is the part of the podcast where I get nervous because it is where I turn over 2 to 3 hours of my life into the hands of Tony Felix. Tony, what movie am I going to watch? What movie are we going to watch as an audience?
So, okay. And since you gave me the option, I am going to in turn extend you the same courtesy.
Okay.
Because I value your time as well. As well as it seemed like you valued my time. And I know it might not feel like it because I made you watch a 4-hour cut of Justice League.
Yeah, but no, you don't.
I'm going to make up with it with this. Would you like to see either Nomadland? Or would you like to see... Actually, I'm going to give you a poo-poo platter. I'm going to give you a buffet of ideas because this could turn us. There's different guests that would have to come on for these movies. This would be good. So, Nomadland, that would just be you and me. American Beauty, who would be a guest that is to be announced. Just to leave it there. Or would you like to do a combination of two movies? That being Palm Springs and Groundhog Day. Two movies that, as I was told right before the podcast started, are very similar. It is up to you. It is the fate of your 2 hours this week is in your hands. Nomadland, American Beauty, keeping up with our American blank motif that was unintentional. Or the Groundhog Day Palm Springs combination podcast. So
when we started this podcast, we threw out a ton of ideas as to some stuff we wanted to do. One of the movies that was at the very, very top of the list was Groundhog Day, and doing sort of like a crossover style thing with it with some other movies. I'm excited to do that one. I'm going to do Groundhog Day and Palm Springs.
Oh,
we'll
okay.
see. We'll see if we can get the guest that we want to do it for.
Well, no, if that's the one that we're going for, I am happy to announce who the guest will be. It's going to be fantastic.
Go ahead.
One of our most loyal listeners, Chris. I know you're listening, and you might even be watching. And if that's the case, how are you? But Chris, we're going to have you on the podcast to talk about these two movies, and it's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to it.
You know what? I want to test to see if he actually listens to this. We're not going to text him or anything. We're just going to see if he if he listens.
That's
Chris,
I like that.
Chris, if you're listening, we're going to record Tuesday at 8:00.
Behind the dumpster.
Yeah, behind the dumpster. Meet me at my house.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Tony, where can they find you?
They can find me at tfelix3412. They can find us for everything else. It's the Tim and Tony podcast, for our YouTube channel, for logistical reasons, for legal reasons, actually. It's Tim and Tony Pod. That's our YouTube channel. So check that out. Subscribe. Where can they find you, Tim?
I am everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, at TLeduc32. That's at TLEDUC32. And yesterday, as of yesterday, I am also at TLeduc32 on Clubhouse. I got an invite.
On Clubhouse.
I got an invite. Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. I worked hard for it. I didn't even pay for it. I got close a couple times, but wow. I finally found a friend who had gotten on, and she agreed to send me her link.
Oh, I thought you were just going to say I finally found a friend.
Nice. Wow. That's something George Lucas would write.
Yeah. That was well done.
Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, like, subscribe, review, play in the car with your friends.
In possibly a 55 Chevy.
Yes.
In possibly a 32 Ford.
Please leave in the comments on the YouTube channel what movies you guys want to see. And if you're lucky enough, we might bring you on like Chris to chop it up, talk movies with us. So
were you going to say shoot the shit?
I was, but I'm trying to keep this PG.
And in the effort of keeping it PG, as always, because in a second, JF is going to play us out. But before that, fuck you, Ted Cruz.
J-Def, play us out.